there's a whole stack of research about organisations that are much better because of their diversity, the diversity of thought, the diversity of innovation, that different workforces bring together. And we heard from the Public Services Commissioner Graham Head yesterday about monocultures, and the reality is we're a monoculture. And a huge amount of work we've just done recently in Fire and Rescue New South Wales was to try and understand what the organisation wants to do to be successful in the future. And we really value innovation and diversity of thought and doing things differently and being at the cutting edge of technology. And yet we've got all the people that we've recruited essentially from the same backgrounds, the same sort of training, the same sort of people, mostly male, older, and we're expecting to get different results.
When you look across the organisation, in each one you will find really excellent innovation in terms of how we do the training or exercising or the way we design our equipment or our trucks or things like that. But overall, everything relies on individuals making the steps. The organizations in itself are sort of still struggling with supporting the innovations in the right way.
So one of the things we're seeing from this particular conference is the opportunities that come from listening to speakers like Kristen Hilton from the Victorian Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission to be able to explain what are the things that we need to do for the future and the learnings and the observations that she's seen as being part of the sector. I'm very proud to be one of the male champions of change, which is also driving the change that we need in this space. There's a long way to go, but there's been some good steps started. This conference, though, has given us some great ideas about how to take that forward and have that conversation with all fire and emergency services personnel.
What we know is that organisations where there is really one very, very dominant culture, that has an impact not just on people who might be suffering discrimination in there because they don't belong to the dominant culture, but on the organisation as a whole. Look, I think the conversation has started and there's people who have been really aware and interested and wanting to change the makeup of the organisation for some time, but look, there's a long way to go. There is a long way to go. It requires some pretty confronting reflection, I think, and a real course of action, and it requires strong leadership, not just from the most senior people in the organisation, but all through brigades and stations and every sort of rank and level to really make the organisations more reflective of the community that they serve. I think one of the great things about being at this conference is that you can see a groundswell of interest and activity and commitment, and people are talking about the different initiatives within their organisation which are going to help this.
I've seen a real maturing of the fire and emergency service industry in my time that we're now willing to ask questions we don't know the answers to, and we're handing over those questions to some of the most extraordinary network of researchers engaged in bushfire and natural hazards, for example. To me, if you wanted a good example of are we maturing as an industry, that for me says it all.
People throughout the sector, myself included, need to be listening to what our own workforce is saying, listening to what the community is saying, listening to what the research is telling us, but also bringing all that together in terms of the data and our own experience, that where we see significant change, whether it's through male champions, whether it's through professionalisation, whether it's with new ways of engaging with the community, so that we can continue to involve and engage.